Let's be honest with each other. If you want to complete nearly all of the content in the Division 2, just use one of the 4 builds in this video. To make this video as easy as possible for you, here are the 4 build types along with timestamps at which they start. Use the chapters below the video to jump straight to the one you want. Oh, and at the end of each of the build guides, I'm going to put on screen a 1-page build summary. Something like this one, so you can pause, screen grab it, and just use it without all of that time pausing the video every time a piece of gear is on screen. Striker builds have the best DPS in the game. As for survivability, well, it's a good job you have a group of target dummies. Valued teammates with you to absorb the damage and pick up your lifeless body from time to time. A typical build is made up of 4 pieces of the Striker's gear set, 1 piece of Gruppo and the exotic Coyote's mask. 1 piece of Seska is an option for its guaranteed critical hit chance, but the Coyote's mask has a team buff and you are a team player, right? But which Striker's pieces to use? Whether you use Striker's chest piece or not comes down to whether the enemies will be alive long enough for you to build up more than 100 stacks. Legendary missions? Yes. Heroic content? Probably not. The Striker's backpack is very good, 25% additional amplified damage which can only be marginally beaten with something like Vigilance when you don't have any other sources of total weapon damage. So I typically run the Striker's backpack, gloves, knee pads and holster. If the Striker's chest piece doesn't make sense, then run a Gruppo chest piece with either the talent Obliterate or Spotter. Obliterate was nerfed in Total Update 22 down to 20% total weapon damage, but it is still one of the best talents to run in a build where you should be aiming for high critical hit chance. For Spotter, which comes with 15% amplified damage, you will want to run the Technician specialisation, the Link Laser Pointer, that fits onto weapons with long rails like the Lexington, which is a great weapon to use with this build. The talent you use on the Lexington will depend on a few things. The optimal way to run the build is with all red cores to maximise damage output, but this can make it quite tough to stay alive. And there are 2 options if this is the case. You could run Preservation on the Lexington for its heal over time, or more likely you could run some blue cores for more armour. If you're running the Link Laser Pointer, then Flatline is a great option for its 15% amplified damage. If not, then Strained is actually the next best option. Killer does deliver a great 70% critical hit damage buff, but in a team you're unlikely to be able to keep it up all the time as other players steal your kills. Do not run Optimist. This is an overrated and overused talent. An ACS-12 is a good option for secondary weapon like this rock and roll. It's a quick way to get to max Striker stacks and quite often die. For attributes and mods, the aim is to get to 50% critical hit chance and then put everything else into critical hit damage. Coyote's mask procs are most likely in the 15 meter to 25 meter range, which will then get you to the 60% critical hit chance cap and maximise your damage output. For skills, running a Reviver Hive is a good option for when your teammates aren't able to pick you up. I quite like running the Riot Foam Chem Launcher for its crowd control in my second slot, but pick your favourite. If you don't go down the Technician specialisation route and go for the Gunner specialisation with its 10% armour on kill, rate of fire and reload buffs, and ammo regeneration, then the Banshee Pulse is always a great option for its crowd control. Here is the full build, great in groups and for big swinging dick players who just want to top the damage charts. But if like me you don't have any friends, sorry that came out wrong. If like me your friends don't play the Division 2, then you're going to want a build that is easier to play solo. Anyone who says it doesn't suck to die in the Division 2 is playing in a group. For the rest of us, a more balanced build is needed. The Heartbreaker gear set is the most balanced weapon damage gear set in the game, which makes it ideal for solo players. It adds 1% bonus armour and 1.1% weapon damage up to a max of 50% bonus armour and 55% weapon damage every time you shoot a pulsed enemy. This damage bonus is multiplicative and on top of the 15% assault rifle damage from its 2-piece bonus. In order to pulse enemies, you could go for headshots, but for most players, using the linked laser pointer from the Technician specialization is going to be the best option. Run this on the Lexington with the talent Flatline for its 15% amplified damage. The Heartbreaker chest piece does double this bonus armor and weapon damage, but the build works better with a Seska chest piece for its 8% critical hit chance bonus with the talent Intimidate. Intimidate is one of the strongest weapon damage talents in the game, something that you wouldn't know from its tooltip, and that's because it's wrong. When I have bonus armor, I gain 3 stacks per second, not 1, up to a max of 9 in just 3 seconds. Each stack buffs total weapon damage and not weapon damage, which is multiplicative and not additive damage as advertised. If you don't know how weapon damage works in the Division 2, check out my video which explains it in a straightforward way once you've finished with this one. If you aren't interested, all you need to know is that multiplicative is better in DPS builds. Finally, each stack is multiplicative, so rather than just getting a 36% total weapon damage buff, you actually get slightly over 42%. The Heartbreaker backpack increases the bonus armor you get per stack from 1% to 2%, but you don't need more bonus armor because you get it from the best solo exotic in the game, the Memento backpack. This beast of an exotic comes with a talent kill confirmed. This adds a long-term buff of 30% weapon damage, 30% skill efficiency, and 3% armor regeneration. Most people have no idea how good skill efficiency is. Skill efficiency is a little like weapon handling, but on fucking steroids. It adds skill damage, haste, status effects, repairs, duration, and health, making it the best attribute for any skills. Kill Confirmed also comes with a 10-second buff on picking up a trophy of 40% bonus armor, 15% weapon damage, and 5% skill efficiency on top of the long-term buff. With all of this damage and survivability, it's not hard to see why Memento is the best exotic for solo players. Now I find that Memento is also solid in group play. In fact, I just answered a Shepherd call and in a 4-man group had no problem building up Memento stacks. But if you're looking for an alternative option for groups, then the Curate's Mask is a good choice for its team critical hit chance and damage buffs, or the Catharsis Mask for its weapon damage buff and healing. Maintaining bonus armor is key to proccing Intimidate, so use a Crusader Shield to tank incoming damage. And this is where running the Technician specialization also works well, as the skill tier from this gets the shield to a tier 6 while still allowing you to run 3 weapon cores. Running the Artificer's Hive, also from the Technician specialization, will also help you to keep your shield up. To get this to work, just leave it holstered and periodically it will heal your shield for 36% of its max health. Here is the full build. This is a great all-round build that will let you face stack all heroic content in the game. Determined and Headhunter are overpowered. The end. Not enough? Well, let's look at the build then. This build centers around 2 talents, Determined and Headhunter. Get a headshot kill and your next shot will be a one-shot headshot no matter where it lands, triggering the Determined talent again and again and again. All the build does after that is to stack headshot and marksman rifle damage in order to hit very, very hard and guarantee every shot is a one shot. The Headhunter talent buffs the damage of your next shot after a headshot kill by 125%, capped at 1250% of your weapon damage if your headshot damage is over 150%, which with this build it is easily. So that even with the unoptimized build I'm running, this is enough damage to one-shot named enemies. This build is one of the few Ninjabyte backpack builds that absolutely works. The Ninjabyte backpack unlocks 2 brand set bonuses on a Habsburg mask and an Araldi chest, both of which are perfect for this build. The key attribute to look for on both of these is the headshot damage, as that will allow you to roll the Habsburg mask to weapon damage and Headhunter onto the Araldi chest. The Ninjabyte backpack also unlocks the hotshot gear set talent Headache, and Determined ensures that every shot you hit triggers it, resulting in more damage, armor and unlimited ammo. Given that your weapon of choice should be a Model 700, which only comes with 7 rounds in the mag, the latter will let you go on, and on without reloading. Every piece of gear and mods should be rolled to headshot damage, and the sharpshooter specialisation will add 15% more. Skills are very much up to you, but I like to run with a decoy and an assault turret to distract enemies and make it easier to pick them off. So here is the full build. I've never been very good with sniper rifles, but with this build it is hard to go wrong, and pretty soon you will be clearing content in record times.
Guns. Lots of guns.
Americans love their guns, and they aren't just for the holidays, because Division 2 players also love their gun builds. Just search on YouTube now for Division 2 builds and you'll be inundated with thumbnails that claim that they will melt enemies with insane weapon damage. Seasons 2.0 introduced some buffs and nerfs. I don't get why massive nerfs skill brand sets. As you saw at the start, weapon damage builds are far more used than skill builds already, so why make them less attractive? The two that hurt the most are Wyvernware, which had its first brand set bonus reduced from 10% skill damage to only 8%, and Empress International, which saw its 3-piece bonus reduced from 10% skill efficiency to 8%. These suck because these are still the two best skill brand sets in the game when you are looking for more damage. So this build uses 3 pieces of Empress International and 1 piece of Wyvernware, all of which are rolled with skill haste and skill damage. I am also using 1 piece of Bellstone Armory because I like the armor regen. In addition, I'm using the gunner specialisation for the 10% armour on kill. Couple these with a playstyle that will see you in cover nearly all the time, and you will have plenty of survivability. Now, one skill talent that was buffed with Seasons 2.0 was Kinetic Momentum. The skill damage buff on this has been increased from 1% per stack to 1.5%. A nice buff from 15% at max stacks to 22.5% skill damage. So we're using this on our chest piece. For my backpack talent, I've gone with Tech Support, which delivers 25% skill damage for 25 seconds after a skill kill. So it is going to be up from the first kill to the end of any fight. The final piece of armour I'm using is the Exotic Waveform holster. This buffs weapon damage by 30%, but the way it does it is that it builds up stacks on one of them, keeps them there for 10 seconds, before transferring them to the other skill. For weapons, there are really 2 that are great choices. The Exotic Capacitor is a staple of many skill builds due to its talent Capacitance that adds 65% skill damage at max stacks, and also because its weapon damage scales off both weapon damage and skill tiers. Test Subject is an option which delivers a 40% weapon and skill damage buff as long as you shoot at an enemy every 5 seconds. If your manhood is feeling a little threatened by this build and you want more weapon damage, more guns, more survivability, then you could use the Memento Backpack, which at full stacks comes with 30% skill efficiency, 30% weapon damage, 3% armor regen, and of course, all 3 cores. Swap out Waveform for a Picaro's holster like this for an extra 10% weapon damage, and keep 3 pieces of Empress International and Wyvernware. Now, you could also use Glass Cannon rather than Kinetic Momentum to buff weapon damage even more, given that you will have more armour and armour regen to tank the extra damage taken. Back to the main build though. For skills, use a Striker Drone and an Assault Turret, both of which are great at taking aggro off you and work best with Kinetic Momentum and Waveform. Here is the full build. This is an old but great build that to this day will let you solo pretty much anything at heroic difficulty.
You're still here? It's over.